Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the #1 marketing and practice growth podcast for high-performing private practice hearing care leaders. It's Friday, and this is my end-of-week roundup of what's top of mind after 7 days of helping some of the world's best private practices to attract high-quality patients, fight the evil forces of manufacturer-owned chains, and be impossible to compete with. My name's Ollie Luke. Pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and let's have a chat. So welcome along to another episode of the Business of Hearing podcast. And once again, I'm going to keep repeating this. If you're listening to the audio, then we are now video. So businessofhearing.com or YouTube, you'll find my mug and some of the points being articulated with a few little visuals, as well as an opportunity to download certain things to help you to put into practice some of the things that we are discussing. And today, I think it's a juicy and interesting topic. And it's all around escaping patient care to work on your practice, because, fundamentally, although some people don't like to admit this, we're all business owners. And as business owners, you've got a few jobs, right? One of them is to make sure your business is nice and healthy, to protect the longevity of the promises you've made to your patients and your staff. Another one is potentially to grow the profit to be grow the business, to be a profitable enterprise that gives you the kind of life that you want, or potentially grow the valuation of it so that if you do exit it in the future, you can ensure that you and your family are well cared for and live a good life. And with that in mind, I think this is an interesting topic, because if your full-time job is looking after patients 9 to 5 every day, then finding the time to work on your business becomes a little more challenging. It's certainly doable. We work with some inner circle members who do a great job of spending a lot of time with patient care, but run very, very good businesses as a result of the wise work they do to invest in their business and make smart decisions for their business. But working on your business is something that typically means it needs focus, it needs time, it needs attention. And unless you're doing that at weekends, evenings, or early mornings, then escaping patient care, whether a little, 1 day a week or full time, is a wise thing to do. And that's what we want to talk about today. And fundamentally, I think this is a really good way to look at any business, but I think it works to the lens of hearing care. And it's a book that I highly, highly recommend you read, called The E-Myth, written by Michael Gerber. And he speaks about almost the journey of a small business. And he breaks it down in a way that I think articulates this point beautifully. Because he says, any small business goes through kind of 3 phases. You start with the infancy, you then go to adolescence, and then you go to maturity. And let's just take this through an actual business. So infancy is business is started, the owner of the business is very much running around doing everything, trying to keep everything afloat. If they disappear from the business, if they have a bout of illness, if they decide to go on vacation, the business pretty much disappears. It can no longer bring revenue in, it can no longer serve its customers. It's kind of gone. What happens as a business moves from infancy to adolescence is you hire a team. You hire a team that can ensure that if you're off for a few days, the business continues to run. The business continues to generate revenue. It means that you don't have to be there to drive everything every single day. You're not doing all of the jobs. You've built a team that can also deliver the work that needs doing. Going from adolescence to maturity is probably the biggest and hardest step from my experience. And in full transparency, it's kind of the step that we're in with my work with Orange and Grey and the Inner Circle, because we've built a team of people that help drive the delivery and play invaluable roles in what we do. But the step between adolescence and maturity is the business owner going from in the business but not needed to do everything in the business to having the opportunity to work on the business as required, i.e. they go from almost owner-operator to owner-investor. They go from being a key core part of the business to being the investor, the big picture person in the business that can steer it in the right direction, but it delivers, it works, the revenue runs through without their day-to-day involvement. And they're really the 3 phases. And if we look at it through the lens of private practice, it's first starting a practice where you are the breadwinner, you're seeing the patients, you're converting the patients, you're then caring for the patients. You may have a front desk person in place to help with some admin, but fundamentally, you are the business. Through to the stage of adolescence, where you have a team, maybe you have another provider, maybe you have another couple of providers, which means that you go away, you disappear, you go for a nice vacation, you come and visit me here in England, then all of a sudden the business still operates. You're still seeing patients. Patients are still giving you money for the work that you do, and it operates. And then, of course, there's maturity. And as a practice leader, that's a big gap, because that goes from you being involved in the day-to-day to the business to not. Typically, the gap between adolescence and maturity that is the biggest stumbling block for any business, based on my experience, is that gap means you need a management team. And building a management team is really, really difficult. For you to go from being in a position where you're kind of the manager of the business, but people are doing the things, to you no longer needing to manage the business, you need somebody to be the manager. You need a GM. You need even a COO or somebody like that who can run the day-to-day of the business without you. The big gap that often exists between adolescence and maturity is that person costs a lot of money. And the business, in most instances, when it's in the adolescent phase, doesn't have that amount of money to pay that person unless you take next to no money out the business. Like, that's the biggest thing that holds most businesses in the adolescence phase. They end up running the business, managing the business, because the hiring process to find somebody to replace them and manage the day-to-day of the business is a significant chunk of money. And it's a big, big gap to fill. It's not just hard from a trust perspective, hard from letting go of control, but financially, it's a big gap, and it's a big gamble to put people into that place, because it means you're doing it to step back from the day-to-day of the business, to pull strings in the background and have the resource and time to pull the strings to grow the business, not from within, but from the outside. So a difficult gap. But if you can identify that as like, okay, they're the 3 stages of a business, or as a private practice leader, here's the 3 stages of my practice, then you should now be looking at this or listening to this and go, okay, where am I in those 3 phases? And who knows, right? You could have just started your practice. You could be about to start your practice. You could be 5 years in. You could be 20 years in. Doesn't really matter of the time, to be fair. Progress happens at different stages, and you'll know, are you the business? Do you have a team, but you're still core to leading the business? Or are you at a stage where you are more the pulling the strings of the business in the background and it operates day to day? But you'll know where you are in that. But based on what I see, where most practice leaders are, is they're still seeing patients. Maybe they have 1 day a week back, but most of the time they're full-time seeing patients. They're trying to do that. They're trying to grow the business. They're trying to work on marketing. They're trying to keep themselves sane in that process. And as a result, burnout, significant burnout exists. Overwhelming burnout is like absolutely the first thing that's prescribed to trying to do all those things. And the big move here, which is the difficult move, but the first step if you want to start growing from infancy or adolescence through to maturity, is you need to escape patient care. And I know that's somewhat controversial, and I've said something like that and got shot down in the past, because all of a sudden I'm even suggesting that you own a business rather than your job is to be an audiologist or a hearing care professional. It's unfortunately the situation what it is, depending on what you want to grow. But getting away from patient care, whether 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or full time, is what I believe your North Star should be, so you can reinvest your time in the right areas to work on the business. Because all the things we speak about in these episodes, whether it's getting a sharp value proposition, creating your points of evidence, working on your pricing, setting the culture, doing the right hiring and firing, all needs the energy, time, and effort from somebody that's working on the business. Very difficult to do right if you're day-to-day stuck with patients, trying to find that 30 minutes, 15 minutes to catch up on an email and get it done. So that's fundamentally what we want to talk about, of how you can do it. And I don't have a magic wand. Every situation is going to be very different here, but I'll try and guide you on some of the steps and struggles that you may have while trying to get out of day-to-day patient care. So first thing to start with here really is, the only way to do it is by hiring. Right? There's no way we can magic up and reduce the number of patients. Like, you're going to have to find somebody else to take on your patients. Now, you may have that person in your team already. You may need somebody else to come in and help you with that. And this is where it becomes that difficult predicament, because hiring another audiologist or hearing care professional is expensive. And if you do it, the concern is, well, if I hire them, then my profit is going from that to that. This is that difficult gamble and leap of faith that you may have to take. Because taking this leap of faith means that you accept that we are going to go backwards for a little period of time, but it's going to free me up to work on the business that will allow us to kick forward. Because right now you may be at a point where there's stagnation. You getting away from the patient care to work on the business, to get that leap, is the right step, but it's a painful step. If you're used to taking X number of dollars out of the business, and for a 3 to 6 month period, you've got to shrink that back to hire somebody else that you can reinvest that 1 day a week, 2 day a week, or 3 days a week in working on the business, then it's painful at first. But if we're playing the long-term game, and the fact you're making promises to your patients to care for them for the next 3, 4, 5 years, etc., and for your staff for the next decades to come, you are playing the long-term game. It's unfortunately one of them you have to take. And I can be transparent from my perspective. Like, we have been 7 years of operating Orange and Grey. For the first 3 years, I didn't take any money, any income. We've had points where we've had to reinvest and step back. It's been part of the game of our growth to build a management team in the business. And it's not smooth. It's not easy. It's full of headaches. It makes headaches somewhat even bigger at times. But the right thing to do to grow through these lessons, to reach a point of maturity where you can be the owner, investor, and breathe in on your skills and the high levels that really move the needle for the business, rather than being that day-to-day person running around like crazy, trying to keep everything afloat and keep spinning plates in multiple areas. But you need to hire it, right? You need to find somebody who can take the patient care. And it may be it's 1 day a week. It may be you creatively adjust the team. It may be that you as the audiologist potentially does one part of the role, but the dispenser does the next steps. The fitting is a dispenser. I don't know. You're the expert. But like being creative with it to go, how can I get time away from patient care, even half a day, 1 day, 2 day, to work on the business is a key step. Another thing I'd be considering, and I take all of this from Dan Martell. He was on Book Club recently, and an episode came out of the Business of Hearing podcast with his interview with him and Phil M. Jones. Well worth a listen. Dan Martell is the author of Buy Back Your Time, probably the best book I've ever read on productivity. But he has a big thing of like, when businesses are looking to grow, they typically go and hire somebody to run the operations, or they go for these big hires. Your first point of call needs to be, how can you get away from them $10 an hour tasks? Because I will take a bet now, at least 5-6 hours of your week minimum is spent by doing things that you probably shouldn't be doing. Checking your email, managing your diary, paying invoices, taking care of admin tasks. Like, find a VA, find somebody that you can give that to, pay them the $10 an hour to give you the time back so you can work on the $1,000 an hour or $10,000 an hour activities. So it's a transition that's not easy to do, but it kind of needs doing, right? If you want to grow, if you want to be in your business like it is now forever, then you'll be okay. You can do what you're doing now. But if you do want to get to a point where you have a bit more time control and you can be the owner investor of your business rather than the owner operator, then these are the hard steps that we're naturally going to have to take. But here comes another question, and I'll prepare you for this, because we've had an Inner Circle member that's done this recently. They've gone from 5 days of patient care down to none. And as a result of that, I was speaking to them the other day, and they're like, I don't quite know what to do. I think I might go back to patient care, because it's something you want, and then you get it, and you're like, my days are long. It's like, I work on the business, but how much work can I do on the business? I'll just start day drinking. Like, really, you're in that situation where you're like, a little bit of purpose is taken away from you, and you may want a bit more of patient care. But if you had to think of 5 things that you should be focusing on when you get time to work on your business, you need to be really clear with what they are. Because if you sit down at a computer like, right, time to work on my business, and you don't really know where you should focus, then it's going to feel like a waste of time. And the 5 big things that I'd be giving focus to in your situation right now: continually evolving your value proposition. And I'm saying the same things as I've probably said 100 times, but that's how important these are. And I'll keep repeating them until they're 100% the truth, and these are the areas you're giving focus to. Value proposition. Like, be so clear on who you're looking to serve and how you're showing up, how you're articulating that you're their person, and creating the evidence to back up you are who you say you are. Like, back up your, as I say in the UK, bollocks. Like, the stuff that you say, back it up. Case studies, evidence. If you say you've done something, where are the pictures to prove it? Like, that is your job, to be the evidence prover. If you're going to a court of law and you've got to present your evidence to the jury that says you're number one in your area, like, create that evidence. That's a big part of your job. Second thing to give focus to: pricing. There's one lever in your business that you can pull that will make the most dramatic difference to your numbers. It's working on your pricing. Like, we should all be increasing our pricing regularly. Your prices are going up year on year. Many practices sit on their hands and make significant pricing increases every 5 years rather than the incremental small ones year on year. So keep looking at that. But the extra hundreds of dollars that you could be collecting per transaction right now that you're currently not, that will compound to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end of the year is significant. If your business is, 1 to 2 mil plus, then there's probably a Porsche 911's worth of cash that is being left on the table, or a lot of cool vacations or Disney vacations with the kids, just by looking at where are the extra hundreds of dollars we should be collecting. But packaging your pricing correctly, ensuring your pricing articulates who you are. It doesn't just say we sell devices, it says we sell hearing care plus devices. That is a key one. Third thing, working on the culture of your business. If you're at a stage where you're getting out of patient care and you have a team, like getting that team culture right, working on the values of the business, working on the mission statement of the business, looking at how you can constantly reinforce the values of that business so everybody lives, breathes it, and they fit in. Or, God, this coffee was sat there then. So we looked at value proposition, looked at pricing. What's 3, 4, and 5? Well, third, culture. Like, your job should be working on the culture, right? What are the values of the business? What's the mission statement? How are we wrapping our arms around the team and ensuring everybody aligns with our values and we reinforce our values? Because the more you step away from the business, unless that is solid, then bad apples are going to ruin everything. And before you know it, the culture can turn very negative and wrestling back control could be very, very difficult. Fourth thing, building referral partners. I nearly choked on my own spit then when I said that. Building referral partners. Look, if you've got time away from the practice, doing the work, this is a calamity at the last minute. I nearly choked on my spit and my speakers and lights are falling down. But if you're building, if you're away from the business, like building referral partners is key. Like the physicians, the next generation of physicians, what you're doing to bring them through the door and educate them and ensure that referrals come to you. What about the other local businesses that have potential to refer to you? What about the networking opportunities locally? Like if your job is to be an independent local business that is a core part of the community and you're the first name that people think of when they think hearing care, hearing loss, hearing aids, then this is the work that you're freeing yourself up to do. And then the fifth one is content creation. Like, we know boomers want to do research. They want to feel educated. They want to feel smart. They want to feel good about the buying decision. You're in the fortunate position that most practices are absolutely dreadful at creating any form of content. Content marketing is king, right? People do research. They ask questions online. They want to understand if Blue Cross Blue Shield covers hearing aids. They want to understand if this is normal that they're experiencing. The brand that shows up, that is constantly the expert, that helps, that shows empathy, that educates, and then offers people support and help, is often the brand that wins. And your job is, can you be the content creator? Can you take the questions that people are searching and asking right now, create smart content to answer those questions and be the local Wikipedia of hearing care? Then you've got a chance of absolutely destroying your competitors. So let's just summarize that. 5 things to work on when you've got time to work on your business: value proposition, pricing, culture, referral partners, content. That's where your focus needs to go, because they're the 5 biggest, highest leverage areas that you can put focus on that will make a meaningful difference to your top line, bottom line, and everything in the middle. So let's just summarize here, because we spoke about the E-myth and going from the early phases of operating a business where you're in your infancy through to maturity, through to adolescence, understanding where you are and understanding that taking time away from patient care to work on the business is fundamental in order to grow down that and grow in terms of maturity through that phase. We spoke about how you can get away from patient care. Like, you're going to have to hire somebody to take over patients. You're going to have to look at giving up some of your time that you're spending on $10 an hour tasks. And then we looked at fundamentally, where should you focus on when you have time to work on the business? Now, it all makes a lot of logical sense, but let's tie the emotional element into this. The one thing that is really difficult to do, and I struggle with this like hell, is discipline. Because we have a tendency as business owners is, once we step away from the thing that we know we're the best at, which is kind of the frontline work, helping patients, then giving control to somebody else is so painful. It's so painful to do. Like, you sit there and you watch what they do and you do it differently, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. And there's 2 things that are going to help you here. The first one is you're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to not be a micromanager, pain in the ass to that employee, because you will be, because I've been there, right? You want it, no, don't do it like that. No, they don't like it like that. You end up being overbearing. Like, you need to have the discipline to go, they're going to take responsibility for that, and they may not do it the way that I would do it optimally, but they'll get the same outcomes. So like, that's a hard thing, and it's going to take constant discipline, and it hurts, but it's the right thing to do. And then the second big one that you need consideration to, if you want to escape patient care to work on the business, is you will be able to give another hearing care professional the ability to take over your patients and work with your patients if you've done the right work to define the right processes, standards in your business. What do I mean by this? Well, there's many practices now that price in certain ways, but it sits in the head of you, or it's on some pricing sheets and you present it in a certain way that works really well, but you've not done the work in order to formalize and package it or process it in a way that you can hand that formula onto somebody else so that they can implement it. Like, that is a key piece of work that you need to do. Because if you're just putting somebody else in and says, there's our pricing, then no wonder they're going to crash and burn. If you walk them through how you do it, if you share your best practices, if you've got a formula and format of how you achieve the outcomes for patients that you've defined, and it's well packaged and explained, and they understand it and they can articulate it as well as you, then you're in a much better place. But like, they're usually the stumbling blocks that mean escaping the day-to-day of the business becomes a lot harder. Discipline and having the right formula systems so somebody else can understand what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. I say this as somebody that's been and continues to be, I must add, very guilty of a lot of this. So it's coming from experience of trying to grow a business that means I can work more time on the business. It's not easy, but it's certainly worth it. So hopefully that's helpful. I know it's a little different. This isn't so much marketing. This is fundamentally, how can you be a better business owner, grow as a business owner, and as a result, work on your business and grow a better business. I think it's so key. But a little rule that we have within the inner circle that I think is so true, that we say to many of our members, is to have a better business, you need to be a better business owner. And this fundamentally articulates that in terms of the detail and what that process takes in order to achieve. So I appreciate your ears, appreciate your valuable time that you've spent with me today. I hope I've repaid every minute with plenty of ideas, thoughts, and hopefully actions that you can take and implement in your practice or put the wheels in motion to do. I implore you to take action. Like, we can all take on more information. Information without application isn't that helpful. So get the wheels in motion. And it may be that you have somebody in mind now that you want to give more of your patients towards. Drop that email and set up the meeting now. Like, make those micro commitments, which mean they're going to be followed by a mass commitment. Like, that will get the wheels in motion on this. But as always, if you've listened to the audio of this, come and check out the video. Lots of little visuals to give you a bit of help and support with that on businessofhearing.com, as well as my WhatsApp number. Any questions, any situations where you're like, that doesn't apply to me for XYZ, then shoot it across. You may be right, but maybe getting a different opinion may be helpful. But I am here to help. I'm here to serve you and ensure that private practice hearing care clinics can fight back against the evil manufacturer-owned chains and these big gormless groups that are trying to gobble up market share. But I appreciate your ears, and I'll speak to you again next week. And there we have it. Another episode has come to an end, and I have a quick favour to ask. If you have found this helpful, then who do you know who should listen to this podcast? I strongly believe a rising tide lifts all boats, and right now, private practice needs to stick together to fight these big, gormless groups and these manufacturer-owned Goliaths that are looking to take market share from us. Consider who should be listening, pass on the word about the Business of Hearing podcast, and I'll see you again next week.